All right, so Jagmeet Singh was told, cut your turban off by a voter. I read that headline and I don't know the story. I haven't uh, followed up on it. I've just sort of done a brief look here at the article. But when I hear a headline like this, I don't believe it. I think that something is fishy in Fishville, okay? Because I don't know anybody that would say this, okay? They might say, if you remove your turban, you might get more votes or something like that. Because it sounds like this person said, where is it here? Here we go. You should cut your turban off and you'll look like a Canadian. I don't know a single person who thinks like that. Okay. And then uh, Singh responds, I think Canadians look like all sorts of people. That's the beauty of Canada. And then the man responds, in Rome you do as the Romans do, to which Mr. Singh responds, but this is Canada. You can do whatever you like. So this, for a politician, this just sounds a little too pithy, right? It's a little too quick. It's a little too pithy for most politicians, okay? Responding to, in Rome you do as the Romans do. So this seems like set up punchline, okay? So when I see things like this, I go, something is up. So it would not surprise me at all if it came out that this guy here was set up in some way to do this with this particular party, okay, to kind of get good publicity. Now, there is an issue here about Mr. Singh, Jagmeet Singh here, being in Quebec. So it says here that they are in Quebec for a federal election debate. Now, um, this legislation, Bill 21, which was passed in June in Quebec, bars civil servants in positions of authority from wearing religious symbols at work, including teachers and police officers. So I want to know why, if that is in fact the law, and it was passed in June, why did the police not actually approach Jagmeet Singh and either escort him away or arrest him or tell him he had to remove his turban if he's there in a political capacity? Because it seems to me that he is in fact then doing his job at that point. So even though he's not technically at work in an office, he is at work working. He is working to get elected. So that's going to be out meeting the public as an official sort of campaign. He's there for a debate. So it seems to me like if that law exists, you have to enforce it, right? Unless they choose not to, in which case it shouldn't be enforced on anybody. Okay? Now, personally, I have no problem with this law. I have zero problem with this law. And in fact, there are certain ways that I think it could be a good thing. I think that there are serious ways to counter this argument, and by that I mean there are certain problems with it, and I think you could make strong arguments against the law. But likewise, I think you can make strong arguments for it. Now, there was one thing in here that I also wanted to comment on, though. Critics say it will make it more difficult because they're going to be challenging this law through the courts, or rather, it's being challenged through the courts, and they're going to let it play out. But critics say it will be more difficult for religious minorities to integrate into Quebec society, and that it unfairly targets Muslim women. So, I disagree with this, that it would be more difficult for religious minorities to integrate. No problem. You just don't wear religious symbols at work. How is that any different than somebody who is in Quebec who is an incredibly devout Catholic not wearing their cross to work, or somebody who's a Jew and may have been Jewish in Canada for generations, for 3, 4, 5 generations, okay, and they can't wear their yarmulke to work? It's exactly the same if somebody is a religious minority of any other type, or if they're an immigrant, because it's all the same. Part of that integration into Quebec society is that you follow the laws. That's great. If I move to another country and they say that the law is I'm not allowed to wear shoes, right? And I go, frick, I want to wear shoes. Well, I just have to freaking integrate. and say no more shoes. Okay. Now here's a part as well that I have serious problems with. It unfairly targets Muslim women. This is an appeal to emotion. This is trying to basically get people's emotions riled up, saying you're just a bunch of racists against Muslim women. You're targeting them because you hate women and you hate Muslims. No, no, no. How is it any more unfair against Muslim women than it is for Sikh men? Okay, because Sikh men have their the kirpan, the turban. They've got a number of religious symbols, right? So it doesn't unfairly target Muslim women any more than it targets any other religious individual. Pure and simple. That's it. And they say, oh yes, but these women want to cover their face, or they want to wear a burqa, or they want to wear a niqab, or whatever it is. Okay, big deal. When you're at work and you're in the public, then great, you're just not allowed to wear it at work. Go about your daily life, because as far as I'm aware, the legislation doesn't cover it just being when you're not at work. So, boom, mission accomplished. You're good to go. Only when you're at work. There you go. No problem. Quit hassling. Oh, here's the other thing I wanted to mention. Where was it? There's something here about... Okay, here we go. Mr. Singh later told journalists he, like many Canadians, has faced racism and discrimination in communities across Canada. Now, a couple things. One, if this story is true, which I doubt, but if this story is true, what this guy here said is not racist. It had nothing to do with his race. It had to do with his turban, which is a religious symbol, right? So conflating racism with this guy commenting on the religion and the religious symbol is wrong. It completely misses the point. It's nothing that this guy has said. This guy didn't say paint yourself white so you look like a Canadian. Okay. Secondly, he has faced racism, but here's the thing that I have now. Maybe he has. That's definitely possible. He might have faced racism. But given that Jagmeet Singh is the leader of a political party that is currently running for the Prime Minister of Canada, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he hasn't faced that much racism that's held him back in his aspirations for a successful life. Okay, so yeah, he might have faced racism, but you know who else faces all sorts of problems? Everybody. Everybody. And he has faced few enough problems, and he's had enough, intestinal fortitude to keep going with his life, that he has risen to one of the most powerful positions in Canada. Okay? So don't play this freaking pity me card. I'm sorry, I don't freaking buy it. I don't think that there's any reason to pity you, and I think that any amount of racism that you have faced has probably been incredibly small throughout your life, especially since Canada, the United States, generally Western society, tends to be incredibly non-racist as far as places in the world go.